welcome everyone to our first session this morning. If you just got in, you missed a good breakfast this morning, so don't forget that tomorrow morning we'll be serving breakfast again at 8, so get here early so that you can enjoy the breakfast with us, period of fellowship. Just an announcement that I want to make before we get started is that normally Brother Jerry records each sermon and makes the disc to hand out the CDs. Was unable to do that this year. But all of our lessons are recorded. They are on our Facebook page. They are on YouTube also. So if you would like to review any of them, you can go to either of those and should be able to find them. This morning, our first session, Brother Will Montgomery. I don't know what we can say about Will that hasn't been said by many others before. But Will has been here several times, and we enjoy having him here. He always does a great job. He is from East Liverpool, Ohio, born there, and still there. They can't get rid of him. He served a short time, I think, in Chester. This was there for. Okay, so he was there for a while, and then back East Liverpool. How many years now? 40?
Started 45.
45 years. So either he's doing a really good job, or they just can't get rid of him, one or the other. But we appreciate Brother Will so much, and I know he will do a fine job for us this morning, talking about the work of the elders in the church. Brother Will Montgomery.
I don't like being first. I'd rather be last. It's good to be with you, and I appreciate the elders inviting me back. And I appreciate the lectureship and the wonderful place they have us staying and all the food that they prepare and all the work that goes into it. I guess they work all year. They start working right after this and for next year. And I appreciate them, and the new preacher, I appreciate him. I'm glad he didn't put his foot up in there and knock my lesson out. But I've been at East Liverpool. It's the only congregation I've ever worked for. And I've been there starting 45 years soon. What it was I went over there to fill in. There were 7 men trying out. And needless to say, they didn't get the job. I did. But I didn't plan on being a preacher. You know, sometimes he plans things. If you're going to go to Nineveh, you're going to Nineveh. But I got the bug after a while and wanted to be a preacher. So I'm going to talk a little bit about elders. I'm an elder and a preacher at St. Clair Avenue, and we have 2 other fine men that are elders. And we work together very, very well. I want to start out with Acts 20 and 28. Take heed, therefore, unto yourselves and to all the flock over the which the Holy Ghost hath made you overseers, to feed the church of God, which he hath purchased with his own blood. Now Paul warns them that there would be grievous wolves enter in. And that's part of the job of an elder, to watch out that false doctrine doesn't come in. When I came to East Liverpool to fill in, and that's what I was doing, I recognized 2 people right off the bat, and this was the time when Crossroads was sweeping the brotherhood, taking churches of Christ, and these were 2 Crossroads people, a husband and wife. And he worked such a job that he could move around and switch these congregations over to Crossroads. And I started to talk to the members, and they said, he's had us over to his home. And he turned out the lights and lit candles. And he had a senior prayer partner and a junior prayer partner. He was a senior. And you confessed everything to him, and then he had you. I said, that's Crossroads. And I bought a book, and I began to study it. And the elders said to me, there were 4 elders then, would you talk to him? I said, sure. And I wasn't living there at the house. I lived at my own place, and I had him over, and I had my father-in-law there. And he was Crossroads. And the next week, the elder said to me, and I'm a greenhorn, I had 2 lessons. That's all I had, 2 sermons. I'd preach it from the top down to the bottom, from the bottom up, and then I'd start in the middle and go both ways. That's all I had. And they said, would you preach a sermon on it? Boy, I worked on that. And the providence of God. That Sunday that I was going to preach that sermon on Crossroads, and I did, his brother and his wife came, and his brother had no qualms about telling you he was a Crossroads preacher in Cincinnati, Ohio. And he came up to me and he said, brother, what are you preaching on this morning? I said, Crossroads. He said, amen. What are you going to say about it? I said, I'm again it. I'm again it. And I preached that lesson, and guess what? They were gone. Never saw them again. And so Paul warns the elders that grievous wolves can enter in, and elders need to be prepared for that. And then he also warns them that of their own selves, elders can mess up. People can mess up. Elders can go wrong, and they have to be very careful about that. And so that's all here in Acts. An overseer is a man charged with the duty of seeing that things to be done by others are done rightly so, is what the original says, rightly. Any curator, guardian, or superintendent. They don't change this. They can't. No one can. We'd be wrong. But they see that this is done right. That we remain the church. That we don't play church. We are the church of the New Testament. In 1 Timothy 3:1, this is a true saying, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desires a good work. I'm told that in the original, he desires a work most good and beautiful. That's the reason a man wants to become an elder, not to be a boss, not for prestige. He must desire the work most good and beautiful, and to follow and to meet the qualifications to be an elder in the church. A bishop is an elder, and we're going to go through some terms in a moment. An overseer in the Church of Christ, the New Testament uses the term bishop as overseer, pastors, elders, presbyters, interchangeably sometimes, and there's some scriptures up there, and we're going to go through some things more than once. We can look at these terms to better understand the work of an elder. When we define those terms, it gives you their job description. In Acts 20:17 and 28, elders of the church, Paul warns the elders at Miletus of the dangers to come, and I mentioned that. In Ephesians 4:11, and he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers. Pastors are elders. You notice I underscored pastors. You know why? Because in the denominational world, preachers are pastors. Whether they're an elder or not, everybody just thinks a preacher is a pastor. They don't study their Bible. And once in a while they'll call me pastor. Well, I am. I'm an elder and a preacher. So I have those terms, and if we look at them in a few moments, in Titus 1:5 through 7, For this cause left I thee in Crete, that thou shouldest set in order the things that are wanting, and ordain elders, plural. There can't be one. Ordain elders in every city, as I had appointed thee. If there are two men, and one passes away, the other steps down. If there are two men that are elders and one resigns, the other must step down. There can't be just one. For a bishop must be blameless, the steward of God, not self-willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre. He can't be a greedy man because a lot of money is handled through the hands of the elders. He must be approachable. He must be a man that you feel you can talk to and trust. And when you tell him something that's personal, it's not going to be on the evening news. It's not going to be in the bulletin next week. He might not even tell his wife. He might just keep it to himself. It's okay to lean on your wife and to get input and things like that. But this man is a kind man and a patient man, and not one that has a temper. I've known men that go from 0 to 100 in their temper, boom, and watch out. You can't do that as an elder. The elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder, and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God. Oversee and feed and tend. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. You want to make a difference. You want to keep the church the church. Neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being in samples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, he shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. Let us see the terms for elders. And when we define them, it gives us some job description there. A bishop in 1 Timothy 3:1, an overseer in Acts 20 and 28. He wears many hats. A pastor in Ephesians 4:11. Presbytery in 1 Timothy 4:14. It's the same office. When I was growing up and we'd go to the matinee, and there was a woman bouncer, and she was the roughest person I ever met. She'd throw you out by the seat of your pants. But we'd go to the matinee, and the good guys wore the white hats, and the bad guys wore the black hats. And then we grew up, and things started getting blurred, and you couldn't tell who the bad guys and the good guys were. But when you go to this, you go to the New Testament, you're always going to tell elders are good guys. Elders wear the white hats. Elders are friends. They're people that care for you and look out for you and watch out, and they may even lose a night's sleep over your situation. So I want to define these, and then when we do, we get some of the work that they do. An elder is advanced in life. An elder is an older person. You wouldn't want to take a young man, place him in that position. He has to be an older man. A term of rank or office. Among the Christians, those who preside over the assembly or the churches. A bishop is an overseer, a man charged with the duty of seeing that things done by others are done rightly. He delegates authority also. Pastors, And that's where we get shepherd. He is a shepherd of the sheep. And they're not his sheep. They belong to God. He's just entrusted with that job. A herdsman, especially a shepherd. The task of a Near Eastern shepherd who were to watch for enemies trying to attack the sheep, to defend the sheep from attackers, to heal the wounded and sick sheep, to find and save lost, trapped sheep, to love them, sharing with their lives, and so earning their trust. An elder doesn't have a double standard. One standard for his family, one standard for the church. We all go by this. This rule is for everyone. If someone in his family is out of duty, they must be dealt with like everyone else. And if they need to be withdrawn from, they must be withdrawn from like everyone else. Presbytery, and this is where we get office, where we get a ship, eldership. Body of elders, presbytery, senate, council. Of the elders of any body, assembly of Christians. Overseers, Acts 20 and 28, a man charged with the duty of seeing that things to be done by others are done rightly, and these overlap sometimes, and like I said, we'll go over them a time or two. In 1 Peter 5:3, not a lord over God's heritage. The New King James Version says, nor as lords over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. The King James says ensample. The New King James says example. That's what it is. This man is an example. This man is one that you would follow. One that's apt to teach. He must know more than just teaching the plan of salvation. He can do that. He could teach a class, he could preach, but he must know enough to even stop the gainsayers, it says in the Bible. So you have to have a knowledge. Can't be a novice, it says in his qualifications. Must be grounded in the faith. Here Peter warns against the abuse of their power. The words lording it over suggest an arrogant, domineering spirit, which is forbidden in all children of God, and especially in ones who serve as elders. You can't be the boss, and that's not the reason you took it. And you can't be over the other elders. It's an eldership. An elder is an overseer. In 1 Peter 5:3, the danger to stay away from is going to be seen in a moment. Feed the flock of God, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock. A danger to stay away from is that an elder doesn't become a boss, a lord over God's heritage. In 1 Peter 5:3, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being examples, not a boss. Be careful of this, and don't let it go to your head. I see fine men that are great, and they get into the eldership, and somehow they got very egotistical. Not every place. But if it happens once, it's happened too many times. But it's happened more than once. And sometimes they want to know where the preacher is every minute. Every waking minute. Every other minute he's sleeping. He's wore out. With a schedule like that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. In 3 John 9, I wrote unto the church, but Diotrephes, and I call this, when men get this, the Diotrephes syndrome. Big me and little you. Correct me when I'm wrong, an elder would say, and when you went to him because he was wrong, he jumps down your throat. That's not good. I wrote unto the church, but Diotrephes, who loveth to have the preeminence among them, receiveth us not. He was kicking people out of the church. I don't know if he was an elder, but he took a position of being the boss. In 3 John 10, wherefore, if I come, I will remember his deeds, which he doeth, prating against us with malicious words, and not content therewith, neither doth he himself receive the brethren, and forbiddeth them that would, and casteth them out of the church. If you don't do it my way, it's the highway. One of our elders told me one time there was a congregation meeting in a storefront, and there was a doctor that was a member of the church, and he said, I'll buy you a building. Well, who could pass that up? But when he bought the building, he became a Diotrephes. If he didn't do it his way, it was the highway, and he'd kick people out. It's my building. Once you dedicate that to God, it's God's building, not your building. I want to tell you a little story, and this will help young preachers that fall into this. When I came to East Liverpool, there were 4 elders, but 1 elder was in charge of the other 3. That's not good. And I think that businessmen make great elders because they got a good head on their shoulders, but don't try to structure the church after your business. The man was a nationwide insurance man, and he was an independent one, and he had an office right in his home, and he structured the church just like the nationwide insurance company. After I left the store, I stayed with the store for a while. I worked in the grocery business for 20 years. I'm now in the funeral business 26 years. I've always worked and preached. We're the last people to let you down. So the thing is, he put me on this schedule. When I got finished with the store, they'd only pay me a little bit because I made good money and I had full benefits at the store. But the store closed. And so the minute it closed, he put me on a schedule that most men would have probably given up. But I'm too dumb. And when I take on a thing, I'm going to finish it. I had to be in the office at 9 o'clock every morning. Now, my house is situated hard up against the synagogue. Dan knows that. He'll be with us this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you go through a door, and you go through a steel door, and I'm there. I'm in the auditorium, walk up to my office. You have to be in your office at 9 every morning. Some mornings he was sitting in my office. He lived 7 miles away, but he made sure he was sitting in my office at 9 o'clock to make sure I was in my office. Listen, if I tell you I'm going to do the job, I'll do the job. He didn't trust me. He never trusted me. And so he'd be there. So at 9 o'clock, I'd be there until 12, and then I'd go down home and get a bite to eat, and at 12:30, not a minute before, I hit the road till 4:30 every day, Monday through Friday. But see, I'm so dumb, I did that for 8 years. And then he started putting limits on me. He didn't trust me, I guess. He'd never tell me, he'd just leave it on my desk. And one day it was on my desk a note, write down when you get to a place and write down when you leave a place. So you know what I did? I kept it for 3 months. I kept a nice book of every place I went, but I also put on there when I went to the restroom, when I brushed my teeth, when I did things, and I was in the book. Well, we're out one day, he and I, visiting, and I said, pull over here. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'd have to go out for 2 hours with a different elder. So that one elder would only do it once a month. I do it every time. So I said, pull over here. I want you to see this. I'm keeping this record you want. Leafing through it. You're getting smart? No, you don't trust me. Threw the book over in my lap and said, don't keep the record. But then he put a time limit on me. It was bad enough. You could stay 15 minutes. And I was only visiting members. I wasn't doing any work to try to get people into the church. We didn't have any gospel meetings. We didn't have any vacation Bible schools. Because before I came, there was a split. And an elder and his wife, there were 5 elders before I came, took 30 people out and opened up the old church building and didn't make a go of it. And she came back and came forward. And they said they never trusted her, so we don't do anything. She's killing the church. And I worked and worked to get one gospel meeting. Could I have one gospel meeting? You can. I got Ira Rice that had Contending for the Faith. We had 360 people every night. And they came to me, the elders said, you can have one meeting a year. Now, we got that Dan Jenkins coming, and we already had a meeting, and we have 2 and 3 meetings a year. So, his father-in-law passed away. He never gave me a hard time. I went to the elders after 8 years, and I said to the 3 of them, I thought I'd try this. Could I have Mondays off? It was killing me. They said, yes, every one of them, even his father-in-law. So they said, but go to him. I went to him. I said, all 3 elders want me to have Monday off. He said, oh, no, you have 2 days off. I said, what 2 days do I have? He said, you have Saturday and Sunday. See, I wasn't on the road. I wasn't on the road on Saturday and Sunday. His father-in-law passed away. He passed away. He and I never had words. We were good friends. But I had a tough work schedule. And as soon as that happened, that they passed away, the 2 elders I had left, one of them, both of them came to me, but one of them was the kindest man. He came to me. I wasn't going to bring it up again. And he said, hey, take your Mondays off. And my work schedule changed. And I was able to go out and reach out to people that weren't in the church and bring them into the church. And so don't be a Diotrephes. Beloved, follow not that which is evil, but that which is good. He that doeth good is of God, but he that doeth evil hath not seen God. Warning, don't be like Diotrephes. Another part of an elder's work is to feed the flock of God as a shepherd. You know, that shepherd crook, the reason for it, the sheep are way down here, and all they can see is other sheep, and they can't even see him, but they can see that. They can see that shepherd crook, and they know he's right under it, and they know he's taking care of things, and he's ahead of them. And that's what the elders need to do. Take heed, therefore, unto yourselves, and to all the flock, over the which the Holy Ghost hath made you overseers, because you need to meet those qualifications, to feed the church of God, which he hath purchased with his own blood. In 1 Peter 5:2, feed the flock of God, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Feed the flock of God. 1 Peter 5, verse 2, Acts 20, verse 8. The flock does not belong to the elders, but to God. I'm just entrusted in that job, to do the best, the very best job that I can do. Do you give a 5-minute mark? I want to get to, whenever the time is up, throw something, but don't hit me. Elders are not only to teach, but to guide and direct the children of God. And elders are examples. Elders make sure the pulpit is sound. Elders make sure the Bible material is sound. Elders make sure the ones who teach children and adults are sound. What about a preacher that will not offer an invitation? You know, we travel a lot. We just finished 6 states on our vacation. They just went by like that because Betty drives fast. I nicknamed her Mario Andretti, and she has upheld that name. But we visited 6 states, and we go to a lot of congregations. And when you visit these places, there's a trend where the preacher will not offer a book, chapter, and verse invitation. I love what you had up there last night. That's what I do, just put the plan of salvation up. I don't expect a person to obey the gospel the first time they come in the building, but I expect them to hear the gospel the first time they come in the building. And I take these men aside. I don't do it to embarrass them. I talk to them privately. Why don't you offer an invitation? I know everybody here. I thought there was only one who didn't have to be told what was in man. He knew what was in man. I know everybody here. And they say such things as, if your subject come. They preach a good lesson, but they didn't offer anything for a person that might be in the building for the first time. We heard a young man this time out of college, and he said, he talked a lot about a fallen Christian coming forward, but he didn't say much about one who hasn't obeyed the gospel, except he said, come up and we'll pray for you. No, we'll baptize you. We won't pray for you. So I see that. What would elders do? Well, I've known elders that would tell the man, you'd start offering an invitation or you pack your bags. And he was so stubborn, he packed his bags. In Hebrews 13:17, obey them that have the rule over you and submit yourselves. Now it says submit. Don't fight them. Don't spite them. Sometimes there's members that get odd against an elder or the preacher, and they're going to spite him. I won't do this. I won't do that. You're not spiting anyone. You're spiting yourself. You're disobeying the Bible. You're disobeying God. Obey them that have the rule over you, and submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls, as they must give an account, that they may do it with joy and not with grief, for this is unprofitable for you. Elders have rule, and they watch for your soul, and they must give an account. The rule there is to lead, to go before, to be a leader, to rule and command, to have authority over, used of any kind of leader, chief, or commander. Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they that labor in the word and doctrine. For the scripture saith, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn, and the labor is worthy of his reward. We see people today that are elders and preachers and they get paid. We see people in Bible times that were elders and preachers. Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. You must have your facts, and usually if the elder is in the wrong, he's going to step down. I've known elders that have gotten tied up in immoral issues and they step down. This is a true saying, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desires a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, a husband of one wife, except for a few of these, a couple of 3 or 4. Every other thing applies to us. The members of the church should be these kind of people. A bishop then must be blameless, a husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach. Not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous. One that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man knoweth not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? That's common sense. That's common sense. Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must have a good report of them that are without, lest he fall into reproach. Those that are without the church, what do they say about him? At work, what do they say about him? Is he 2 different people? Is he one person at church, one of the nicest people? But at work he uses filthy language? No, he can't be that. So that's what it says, a report from those who are without and from within. He must be the same everywhere. You know, Christianity isn't something you put on Sunday morning and you take it off Monday morning. We're Christians 25 hours a day. What did you say, preacher? I learned this in the Navy. I was in the Navy and I started bawling around about working all the time. We'd go out for 6 months at a time and you'd work. And I went to the big bosun mate, Big Mac, 245 pounds, 6 foot tall, gold tooth. If you saw the gold tooth, he was smiling. If you didn't, you might be in trouble. And I said, Big Mac, I'm working too hard. He said, I'm going to tell you something, Montgomery. We're sailors 25 hours a day. I said, this man doesn't even own a watch. He's not going to help me. He meant 1 hour into the next day. Isn't that Christianity? You don't put it on Sunday morning, take it off on Monday. Everywhere. Let the Ezra well counted worthy of double honor. We talked about that. And there's scripture on that he gets paid. Just go through this. I want to get to something. Thou shalt not muzzle the ox. The preacher should get paid. Deuteronomy 25:4. There's other scriptures. 1 Corinthians 9:9. If he's an elder and a preacher, he's worthy to be paid. Elders, watch out for false doctrine coming into the church. They need to know what is going on in the brotherhood. Elders need to know what's happening in other congregations because it can come to you. Elders see that things that are done rightly. And against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. Them that sin rebuke before all. Others also may fear. Anyone that sins should be rebuked with an elder, 2 or 3 witnesses. That's something I've already gone over. Kind of person that he is. Every Christian should be one of hospitality, lover of good men, sober, temperate. Now, elders need to watch out because the church is getting very dangerously close to denominationalism in many places. And the church, instead of teaching and preaching and worshiping God in spirit and truth, has gone to the side of entertainment. There's more entertainment than there is worship. And they need to be aware of that. And when we get these team leaders and we get these people that preside over the song service, we went into one of the congregations, and they had 3 women and 3 men up at the pulpit. There was no pulpit, but up at the stage, and a song leader just 2 steps ahead of them. Were they backup singers? And they had microphones, and they sang. And when communion came, they sang to the people. They sang for them and to them. There's dangers out there. There's things happening that elders need to know about and keep out of the congregation. In Philippians 1:1, we have the organization of the church: preachers, members, elders, and deacons. That's what the Bible teaches.
Thank you, Brother Will. Appreciate all of that. Shortly after becoming a Christian, I used to think that, it's not easy being a Christian. You have to work at it, and you have to keep that in your mind all the time, And like you said, we don't just pretend to be good while we're here on Sunday. We need to be good all week. Now I'm finding out that it's not easy being an elder. There is a lot of responsibility with that. It's not that we have problems here, but just the idea of that you're responsible for it. And so I appreciate all the words of wisdom that you expressed to us. We will take about a 10-minute break or so and return, and Brother Jeff Rich will be speaking for us. Ladies will be adjourning to the multipurpose room. Sister Letitia Brown will teach over there. So, 10-minute break. Thank you.